Wunderbar! 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 Which actually translates to wonderful. So that's weirder knowing that. Wonderful. The second installment of Kevin Smith's True North trilogy, Yoga Hosers, tells the story of two teenage girls working as clerks at a Canadian convenience store called the A to Z. As most teenage girls, they are obsessed with yoga, their phones, and boys. In a world full of remakes, reboots, and reimaginings of stories that have been told over and over again, you have to applaud Kevin Smith for getting something original made. Now, based off reviews of Tusk, there's going to be people who simply not understand this movie. If you happen to be one of those people, just know that it's really funny for those of us who consume Kevin Smith media on the regular. The inspo for the movie that became Yoga Hoser, starring Harley Quinn Smith and Lily Rose Depp, literally came about from Smodcast episode 288 entitled Yoga Hosers. If you haven't listened to it, I put a link to the episode and time code where they start talking about that in the description. Okay, because I've been waiting to see this movie for like ever, I'm going to get into some details here, meaning there are going to be some spoilers ahead. So please stop watching now and come back, finish the video once you see it. In the meantime, here's some other videos you can watch to keep you entertained. Now that those losers are gone, let's talk about Yoga Hosers. Opening credits starts with a catchy garage band style rock song, which brought me right back to my childhood when me and my sister would sing along while watching Josie and the Pussycats. Oh sure, go ahead, roll your eyes, but I'm a girl and I'm allowed to like girly things from time to time. Right away we were introduced to the Colleens and their band Glamthrax, who have taken over the back room of the A to Z and turned it into a space for band practice. Since it's just the two of them running the store, they create adorable cardboard signs with suspect reasons as to why the store is closed while they have practice. Urinary tract infection, bubonic plague, and heavy periods, all cardboard signs included little hearts, adorable. Also, whenever someone has a problem at the store, the girls simply respond with a sarcastic, "I'm sorry about that." I found both of the girls to be incredibly likable, with no shortage of wisecracking remarks throughout the movie. Their characters' lack of interest in anything that isn't their phones is heightened by hilarious little moments where they continue texting without even looking at the screen. The convenience store itself is full of little nods to satirical Canadian culture, things like Pucky Charms, Chug-a-Lug, stuffed beavers dressed as Mounties, an entire wall of maple syrup behind the counter, and t-shirts for sale that read red, white, but never blue. Things really get going when the girls get invited to a senior party. There's a brief fight with Colleen M's mom, who is played by Jennifer Schwalbach. This takes place at the fast food joint, the Gimli Slider, which is featured in Tusk and is named after the Gimli glider, which is discussed in Smodcast episode 282. Anyways, just like the Smiths tell Harley Quinn in real life, Jen reiterates, "Bring something stabby," and hands Colleen a switchblade, aka Mommy's date knife. The girls end up having to work the night of the party and almost dodge a bullet until they invite the boys to party at the store. The boys wind up being Canadian Satanists and plan to use the girls' virgin souls as offerings to the devil. If you can believe it, this isn't the weird part. The boys are rather comically murdered by human-like bratwursts called Bratzies, who are played by Kevin Smith himself in some tasty-looking makeup. This is followed by a pretty awesome fight scene with the Bratzies where the girls use yoga moves taught to them by their instructor Yogi Bear, who is played by Justin Long. Admittedly, this flick doesn't have the world's greatest VFX, but bad CG didn't stop flicks like Sharknado from becoming a huge success, now did it? Kevin Smith just had enough of a budget to paint us a humorous picture of what he saw in his head while creating these creatures. And at least he didn't pull a Ben-Hur dropping $100 million on a movie that no one went to see. Kevin Smith makes no secret in telling his audience that this is definitely a movie that was made for kids. As children, we didn't judge the hell out of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and boy was that show filled with some sketch VFX. Nope, we just enjoyed it. Apart from being labeled a movie made for kids, it's also considered a horror comedy, which is why I'm talking about it on a channel called Ghouls, Guts, and Gore. I should warn you, don't expect this to be horrifically disturbing like Tusk. Actually, the whole thing had very little gore. The level of gore was right around an episode of Goosebumps from the 90s. I would definitely more likely describe this as a creature feature instead of straight up horror, especially when the giant boss level menace called the Goalie Golem shows up. He's made from human body parts and is powered by the Bratzies operating it from within. The presence of the golem brings on another adorable, yet ass-kicking yoga-inspired fight scene. Moving on from VFX, I enjoyed seeing the Smodco family once again on screen. Jason Mewes, Jennifer Schwabach, and Ralph Garman make appearances later on in the movie. If you're a fan of the podcast Hollywood Babylon, you know that Ralph does amazing impressions of Al Pacino, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and really so many more. Again, someone who isn't familiar with Smodco Entertainment might find it strange that a Nazi with a heavy German accent 1 minute all of a sudden starts talking like Adam West. Ralph does these impressions so well, it really doesn't even matter why he's doing them in the movie. Ooh-ah. Johnny Depp as Guy Lapointe is back with that strange yet hilarious voice and a mole that will not stay in one place. Sometimes I found myself growing impatient because I couldn't wait for the camera to cut away from Guy, then cut back to him just to see where his mole moved to. Even the great Johnny Depp is having fun with his character and not taking himself too seriously. You can just tell that everyone involved had so much fun making this movie. It has a very homegrown family vibe to it, despite a ton of Smodco inside jokes, which I enjoyed very much. I think this movie can be enjoyed by all. If I had kids, I would definitely take them to see this movie. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Yoga Hosers, and don't forget we have 2 more Saw-Its coming out this week. And if you're like, what's a Saw-It? This right here is a Saw-It, where we review and discuss the latest horror movies that we've seen. Next up, Blair Witch, which I still don't honestly know how I feel about. Thanks so much for watching. Don't be afraid to hit like and subscribe to watch more gore, and stay horrible.